Sanji's dream has been the biggest hint to tell us where the One Piece story is going. But it's not the only hint that we got. With all the new information coming out in the recent chapters of One Piece and Vegapunk's broadcast continuing, there's one thing that we can say is that the Roger Pirates always knew what Vegapunk has been telling us. And while this in itself is not a surprise because we know that the Roger Pirates learned the truth of the world, the signs that they know have always been there throughout the series. But we just didn't look close enough to see it. One thing that shook the internet when it was released was the chapter in which Vegapunk announced that the world was going to sink. And while it's not necessarily the world sinking but more the sea levels rising, it still holds the meaning that the world as we currently know it will be underwater. And this is not the first time it happened. Vegapunk revealed that in a mere century the sea levels rose by 200 meters, completely engulfing the old world. Which too has been hinted way before the current arc we're in. In Water 7, Frankie explains that the city they currently live in was built on top of the century-old building, and that this was necessary because the sea levels rose to that extent. While watching Water 7 we all thought it was because of the Aqua Lagoon, but it turns out it wasn't. Next is Wano. In the Wano arc, we see that the old Wano was underwater, completely preserved. This further opened up the possibility that the current world lays on top of the old world. And if I have to describe someone who perfectly described what happened, it would be Doflamingo.
正義は勝つって?そりゃそうだろう。勝者だけが正義だ!
His quote in Marineford verbally sets the tone for the story. The world government being good and pirates being evil is simply because of the world government prevailed in the Void Century and was able to decide the narrative. No regular person really questions the way they are living because it has been decided for them previously. Now let's dive a little deeper into the actions of the Roger Pirates after they learned the truth of the world. Starting with the captain, Roger. While it may seem quite of a reach, I don't believe that Roger starting the Great Pirate Era was just because he wanted people to find the One Piece. I also believe that a little bit of his statement connects to Roger wanting people to learn how to live underwater. Go seek out my treasure, go look for it yourself, but in the meantime also learn how to live on water, with water, and the importance of water. Knowing or at least speculating that the world government can to a certain extent control the sea levels, letting people learn how to live on water is a very big thing. Now we move on to Rayleigh. Rayleigh started coding ships because he knew the ships were going to need that protection in case the sea levels rose. Now the thing with ships is they would float anyway, but this also depends how the sea levels will rise. If it is by means of a great flood, quoting the ships is a very good means of protecting them. Moving on to Crocus, probably the guy who took it the safest. Crocus started living inside of a whale, Laboon. If they learn that the current world lays on top of the old world, that whole thing happening again wouldn't be so weird. So you taking the safe route, living in a whale who can navigate through the waters, isn't that strange of a thing anymore. Then moving on to Shanks. Shanks created a crew of non-devil fruit users. Some may argue that the reason for this is him witnessing how Buggy got sick when they got close to the final island. But if you watched my previous video about Shanks, you know that I believe that he learned about the truth of the world through other connections. This could mean that the reason why his crew exists of non-devil fruit users is because he knows that the sea levels could rise again and will make his crew vulnerable. Now let's put the Roger crew aside for a minute and let's move on to the Celestial Dragons. The Celestial Dragons build their home on top of the Red Line. Aside from Skypiea, this is probably the highest point in the world. I believe that the reason they built it on top of the Red Line and killed off the Lunarian race to do it is because they knew that the place they were going to live needed to be protected from any flooding or rising of sea levels. And talking about the Red Line and the Celestial Dragons, we all know there's an upcoming huge war. Looking at how the story progresses, this war will probably be on one side the pirates with Luffy leading them, and on the other side the marines and the world nobles. Now hold that picture of the war for a bit. Let's quickly look at something that happened at Fishman Island. Do y'all remember Madame Charlie and how she told Luffy his fortune, and that being Luffy destroying Fishman Island? Well, the huge war that's coming up is linked to this. Fishman Island is directly located below the Red Line. If the huge war between the pirates and the world nobles actually happen, it would probably take place at the Red Line. I believe that in this war, Luffy would be responsible for destroying the Red Line, where the home of the Celestial Dragons is built on. But destroying the red line also means it will probably fall down into the sea. And yes, you already see it coming. If the red line is destroyed and it falls into the sea, it would fall directly onto Fishman Island, destroying it in the process. While this actually would be a good thing for the Fishman race, if you read his fortune, it will look like he destroys it, since in a way, he does destroy it. Now let's get back to the title of this video. We all know that Sanji's dream is the creation of the All Blue. In order for the All Blue to be created, all the 4 seas need to be connected. This is something that's impossible since the red line exists. Like I just explained, in my belief, the red line will cease to exist at the end of the story. This would mean that if the sea levels rise, the red line is gone, all the 4 seas can connect, which would create the All Blue. Of course, a lot of what I just said is a theory by myself, but it is supported by the happenings in the series. Let me know what you guys think of how the story will progress. Do you think that the Roger Pirates knew and they were preparing for it after they learned the truth of the world? Do you believe that a huge war that's coming will be between the pirates being led by Luffy against the world nobles and the marines? Do you think that the red line is going to be destroyed? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to comment, like, share it with your friends, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.